Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're tackling something kind of different. We've got this podcast script all about how to learn English.
Okay.
It's packed with advice and tips for English language learners. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
I think these habits they're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
I think they could work for A and Y skill you want to learn.
Interesting.
Like, yeah, if you're learning a language, but also if you're trying to get better at, like, I don't know, coding or playing guitar or even cooking.
Oh, bats.
So we're going to dig into this script
Okay.
and see what golden nuggets we can pull out,
I like it.
right? It's kind of
Yeah.
we're on a treasure hunt for good habits.
Uh-huh. I like that analogy.
Right. So the podcast we're looking at,
Huh?
it lays out 7 key habits.
Yeah. It's like bam, bam, bam. Rapid fire motivation.
Of that, with sound effects and everything.
No way.
Yeah. It's super high energy.
Wow.
And it's really effective
Yeah.
because it keeps you engaged.
Right.
So the habits are read every day, practice speaking, listen actively, set specific goals, write regularly, use technology, and stay consistent.
So it's like a holistic approach to learning a new skill.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not just about the language itself. It's about building the right habits to learn anything.
And I think that's where its real value lies.
Yeah.
You know, you could apply these principles to pretty much any area of life.
Right. It's like a blueprint for success.
Yeah.
Like, they don't just tell you the habits. They explain why they're important
Oh, that's good.
and how they all connect.
I see.
So, for example, they talk about breaking down big goals,
Uh-huh.
like fluency,
Right.
into smaller steps.
Oh, that's smart.
Right. Because that's less overwhelming.
Absolutely.
And they emphasize this idea of positive reinforcement, which is where the sound effects come in.
Interesting.
Like, every time you complete a task, you get this little burst of positive energy.
Oh, so it's like gamifying the learning process.
Yes.
Exactly.
Extra.
Really clever.
Right.
Yeah.
And they talk about consistency being key way.
Well, that makes sense.
Right. Like, it's not about cramming. It's about showing up every day.
Building that habit.
Exactly. So there are all these little details in the script that I thought were really insightful.
Yeah, like what?
Well, one that stood out to me was about practicing speaking
Mm-hmm.
in front of a mirror.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of that.
Have you?
Yeah, it's a classic technique.
So does it actually work?
Well, at first it might seem a bit silly, but there's actually a lot of research to back it up.
Really?
Yeah, because when you practice in front of a mirror, you're essentially simulating real-life conversations. And that helps to reduce anxiety and build confidence.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, because you're getting used to seeing yourself speaking
Right.
and hearing yourself, and it becomes less daunting when you're actually in a real conversation.
Yeah, because you've already kind of been there.
Exactly. You've practiced it.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
It's like tricking your brain into being more comfortable.
exactly.
And I also loved how much they emphasized making learning fun. Oh, yeah. Like finding what works for you and not being afraid to experiment.
Yeah, so important.
Right, because if you're not enjoying it, you're not going to stick with it.
Exactly.
And that ties into another point they made about setting specific goals.
Oh, yes.
Like instead of just saying, I want to learn English,
Yeah.
you break it down into smaller, more achievable goals.
That's a good strategy.
Right. Like maybe you set a goal to read 1 English article a day or to have a 5-minute conversation with a language partner each week.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. And by tracking your progress, you stay motivated and feel good about your accomplishments.
Absolutely.
And all these habits they talk about, they all feed into each other.
All right.
Like reading helps you learn new vocabulary,
Uh-huh.
listening helps you with pronunciation, and writing helps you solidify your understanding.
It's a virtuous cycle?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. But here's something that I was thinking about.
Yeah.
They talk a lot about consistency,
Oh, yeah.
right? They even say learning a language is a marathon, not a sprint.
That's a great analogy.
So it's all about the long game. But isn't there also value in like short bursts of intense effort?
Oh, absolutely.
Like sometimes you need to sprint
Right.
to reach a specific goal
Exactly.
or to break through a plateau.
And sometimes those sprints can actually help you build consistency.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because they give you a sense of momentum, and that can keep you motivated to keep going.
Yeah, I can see that. So it's like a balance between consistency and intensity. And they also talk about using technology,
Yes.
like apps and online resources, which makes sense.
Absolutely.
Because there are so many amazing tools available now
Yeah.
that can help you learn more effectively.
We make it more fun.
Exactly. So what do you think? Could you apply these habits to something you're trying to learn.
I think so, yeah.
Like maybe you're learning to code, or trying to get better at photography, or maybe even something like gardening.
Oh, totally.
Right.
Yeah, because these habits, they're not specific to any one skill. They're about building a mindset for success.
Exactly. It's like a framework for learning anything. So even though this podcast is about learning English, I think there's a lot we can take away from it, no matter what we're trying to achieve.
But here's a final thought.
Okay.
The podcast script we looked at, it focuses a lot on the positive.
Right.
Like all the steps you can take to succeed. But what about when things go wrong?
Oh, yeah.
Like what happens when you hit a roadblock? Or when you just don't feel motivated?
That's a good question.
Yeah, how do you deal with setbacks? And how do you keep that fire burning?
I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. Until next time, keep learning and keep exploring.